Hey, happy Wednesday, whatever you're doing. Now, here today, it is absolutely terrible weather, absolutely terrible. It's filling up the reservoir, which is good. So we might not have a hose pipe ban, which is good, but it's proper winter. And I kind of always want to connect in that way, probably because there's a bit of it that I'm a Brit, and us Brits always love talking about the weather, but also kind of just bringing through references to the outside world reminds us that we are a part of an actual world that has actual nature in. And I don't say that flippantly because over my working life, I've worked in many different environments, different offices, small ones, big ones, shared ones, private ones. And there are so many times that I've actually lost touch with what's going on in the outside world because I just don't look down. I kind of come to my desk, get tea, come back to my desk, eat at my desk, take calls at my desk, relax on the phone bed at my desk. And in my most recent paid role, and kind of actually been in an office day in, day out for a long time, and was in a typical routine of turning up at 8:15 in the morning, leaving at 6, 7, sometimes later at night, and just not realizing what was going on around me. And I left that role for a number of reasons to start up my own business. And honestly, one of the most revelatory things for me was spring. 6 months after I'd set up, I actually started to notice the evenings get lighter. And, just actually walking home and seeing the sky and seeing how that changed. And it's just the smallest thing, but you don't realize how fast your life is moving, how quickly the years are amassing, and how often you forget to look outside the window. So, all of that is a really long ramble to say the weather is horrible here, but also a reminder to actually stop. You can pause me, I'll still be waiting, but have a look outside if you can, and just see what's going on. Or next time you do step outside the door, just have a look, just feel the air. With the rain, I was joking with my hubby that I said, "Where does all this rain come from?" And he says, "Oh, from the sea." It's like typical engineer response. But actually, I responded by saying, maybe it's little kisses from the sea. I miss you. I miss you. Come back. Have some more kisses from me because I love you. um, Now, you don't have to be as mad as a fruit bat like me to have such a positive and optimistic view of the sea or the rain. But yeah, whatever it is that kind of makes you smile, then grab it. Now, today's session is in part testing out live, and if you've been watching live, you know how much of a fail that has been because it's been delayed. But actually, it's also been about conflict and the conflict within. Now, I put up an introduction that said if you had a flatmate, a housemate, or a partner or a sibling who constantly ground you down, who criticized you, who kind of said, "Are you wearing that again? Oh, that's not your colour. Look at the size of your ass." Or why did you say that? Or starts to question your relationships about what people are really after, starts to really kind of grind you down over time. How long would you put up with that? Honestly, and I know there are many relationships where kind of that's a feature of kind of ongoing, and it can carry on for decades at times. But if you had a choice, how long would you stick up with that? How long would it be before you said, "Look, just get out, get out"? And what we don't realise is that actually the real estate that we have, the true real estate that we have, is inside our minds, in our brains, and that flatmate is real, and that flatmate can be inside of you and just attack, attack, attack. And you'll hear me say this over and over again, but for me, kind of as someone who identifies as a Virgo, maybe that'll be a thing in the future, but as somebody who is always striving for perfection and for the next and for the next and for the next, that voice has been quite strong. And at times of stress, really chronic stress, that inner critic has become an inner bully, always kind of bringing me down, comparing me to others and not favorably, demanding more and more and more, and just treating me like crap, like rubbish, sorry. And so I really identify with that sense of an inner critic who's just not doing you any favors at all. Now, I do a lot of work with different entrepreneurs and business leaders, and kind of those critics are real, whether you're running a multi-million pound organization, whether you don't yet have a team, whether you're at the beginning of your career, or whether you're really established. It's very common, and more common than you think, for people to just have those little inner, what am I doing? What am I doing? The fear that's there, and often it's set up as a protective response, and so these saboteur voices, they've been developed throughout your life, probably started in childhood, somewhat genetic or based on your family environment at times as well. But they're there because they help you to grow. They help you to be successful. They help you to find love, and recognition and acceptance. And so they help you to expand and to grow and to keep you safe. And, human beings are a social animal. We like to have our own tribes, and even if you don't like people in person, you'll identify with a tribe perhaps through social media or through TV, or you'll belong in a group somewhere. And so kind of some of these saboteur behaviors develop because they teach you the norms to be safe and to thrive and to keep going. And some of the work that I've been doing directly with one-to-one clients is that I've been encouraging them to explore what their saboteurs are. There's a great framework called Positive Intelligence. I'm looking here in case I've got the book, and I don't have the book with me. Another time. But it's a great book called Positive Intelligence, and it's been developed by an absolutely awesome coach called Shizad Chamin. And again, I'll put his details in the thread here so that you can pursue his work and also the assessment. And what he did and what his team did was to examine kind of different elements of psychology, so cognitive psychology and positive psychology and neuroscience as well, and worked out, did a factor analysis, so really distilled down the information. Think of vodka kind of being distilled over and over and over again, if that makes you relate. But he distilled a lot of the research down into this sense of saboteurs, very common irrespective of which field, and identified 10 saboteur behaviors. And these might be a judge, for me, restlessness, a hyperachiever and controller. And it makes me an awesome boss because I'm always driving forward, but it also makes me a really terrible boss at the same time. The best illustration is on the hyperachiever. Essentially, the hyperachiever in me keeps driving me to achieve and achieve and achieve and get satisfaction from achieving and ticking the boxes. It also it prevents me from recognizing achievement unless somebody else has given it to me. And I'll give you an example. So my full name is Claire Louise Oatway, and I am a BA Law Hons. I'm an MBA. I'm a Fellow of the Institute of Leadership and Management, so that's a FINST-LM. I'm a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, that's an FRSA, and I'm also a member of the Institute of Directors, that's an MIOD. So I'm Claire Louise Oatway, BA Law Hons, MBA. Finstellem, Frse, and MIOD, which in many senses is, gives me authority. It kind of, demonstrates how learned I am. But it's blimmin' exhausting to have more letters after your name than actually in your name. And arguably, kind of, what's the true value of each of these accreditations? What am I striving for? And I know that I headed to burnout quite rapidly in my early 40s because I was constantly chasing the next bit, the next achievement, the next goal, and really driving myself forward. It's awesome being me. I competed internationally in sport. I've been in charge of £8 million projects and built a got to knock down my primary school, just all these little projects and bits and bobs. But there's been a cost. And I tell you that story because each of us has got a range of saboteurs in place that are just driving our decisions, that are kind of pushing us along, sometimes mostly positively, sometimes negatively. And they will introduce a kind of cap, a ceiling to the level of success, or they might stop you from being happy and successful. They challenge your relationships. I've already described in terms of my well-being, kind of how that was challenged because I was driven for this hyperachiever. So I want to encourage you to explore that in a little bit more detail. I'm going to put in a link down below to a quick course that I've done, which goes into more depth. And it's a mini course and it's free. There's only 4 lessons, so you can do it over lunchtime if you want. If you want to cram and be a hyperachiever, do it at lunchtime. If not, take it a bit longer. That's got a lot of links in as well. So you can follow those through. But what I want to do is first and foremost kind of highlight that you've got these saboteurs, that you've got this inner conflict all of the time. Second off, to say you're not alone. Nearly every person on the planet has currently or has faced those inner saboteurs, those inner demons, those inner critics. It's part of development and growth. And then third off, to say when you reach an awareness that that's what's going on, you then also are empowered to start making choices about what you do next. And I'll give you a couple of quick tips. So one quick tip is, when for example, restless. So restless for me, particularly because I write about AI and technology, restless is brilliant because I'm always looking out for what's the next gadget, what's the next bit of kit, what's the next application of AI. And so I'm like, I'm like a little bunny, or more like a Labrador bunny, overexcitable, and a Tigger thrown in. But I'm always looking out and I'm always looking for the next thing. It also means that I'm difficult to hold a conversation with because I'm just like, boom, 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 bored of that now. Let's go to this next bit. And it comes from a place of genuine excitement for me, but confusion for a lot of people that I'm with, which is another matter. And so kind of that restlessness is there. And it also means that I don't squeeze as much value from the moment or from my projects and my work. So I'm kind of always on to the next bit, or I take on too much. So when I feel it coming through, it's like, there's the restless. There's restless Rita. And you kind of just start to spot the patterns. And if you can call that saboteur, that little voice, if you can give it a name, ridiculously restless Rita, the crazier the better, then you're there. The other thing that you can do is a great trick from Paul McKenna, is that you can give it a different voice. So with my restless is talking and saying, I'm really bored. What's next? What's this mean? Oh, where does this go? You can turn up the voice to be like a really squeaky, cartoonish voice. You're like, I'm a little restless voice. Where am I going? Puppy dog's going, what's next? What's next? What's next? And again, you can see that it's just taking some of the power, some of the real nature of that voice, and yeah, you can accentuate it, or you can slow it right down. Oh, restless. Oh, where do I go next? And again, it just disrupts that speech pattern. Now, there's a few reasons why that's really helpful. One is that it kind of belittles the voice. It kind of brings in some affection and playfulness to it, so it's less harmful. And in a playground, sometimes you've got this play environment where you're just taking the mickey out of each other. It creates that playfulness, so it's not such a serious voice that comes through. And the second bit is that over time, when you hear that saboteur voice, and especially if you're not in touch with your wiser self, you think that that voice is a benevolent voice that is guiding you towards your highest purpose, your highest truth. It's keeping you safe and it's helping you to flourish and to grow. And that inner voice is deep inside all of us. And so if you can kind of preserve the voice in your head, preserve the speech patterns to be the most benevolent and wise of the personas that you've got, and make the saboteurs really squeaky or really slow, then you can differentiate. So in the moment when you've got that self-talk, you can catch it, you can start to identify it, and you can move forward. The second area that I would really encourage you to do is set intentions. And again, kind of the conflict element, the saboteur element, is always an automatic behavior. So if you think about it, as you learn and develop and grow, so things just seem quite normal and you don't have to think about them. Probably the best example is if you're driving and you're on a regular commute and on your way home, you're not always conscious about every move that you've made, every time that you look out of the horizon and spot different markers, every time you're looking at other traffic. It's a subconscious pattern that you've done over and over and over and over and over again. I'll bet when you were learning to drive, you were hyper alert to every single person that might be crossing the road, or you were nervous about where your hands were. And so you can see that as these patterns grow, you become less and less aware of what's going on. And so when you go to a meeting or when you walk into a different room, unless you set an intention, you're likely to be your most natural self, which means that your saboteur may come through really strongly, whether or not you want them to. So one of the things that I really do advocate is just stopping and intentionally setting your mood for your next step. So it could be confident. What does confident look like? And with practice, you can just stop, say the word, feel the word, and then move forward. And you'll be surprised. It won't, this isn't like a magic pill. You won't go from zero to hero automatically, kind of like 100 times differently. But actually, the way that you show up and the way that you keep bouncing back to closer to confidence is remarkable. Just how you train your mind. So there are three very strong tips that you can bring into your world from here on in. And what I wanted to do before I leave you is just start to describe a piece of work that I've got launching in December, but I'll be running at regular points throughout the year. And that really looks into the saboteurs in more detail. It's an app-supported program that runs for just over 6 weeks. Every day you have kind of 15 minutes of content that will help you to learn and to practice new hacks, new approaches. Every week there's a kind of hour worth of input where you start to learn about the neuroscience, kind of really start to understand what's going on inside your head, and why it's been developed. You'll start to look at the saboteurs and their origins and the language that's used. Again, it helps you to understand what's going on there. But it's really good. It's really, really, well, it's really good. It also teaches you about the sage behaviors. And so sage behaviors are kind of some of the right brain activities that are much more aligned with that wise voice than the saboteur. And it also teaches you around some very quick sensory hacks that you can introduce. Now, in terms of sensory hacks, that's going to be my last gift before I say goodbye. And if you find yourself in a situation where you are, you haven't looked up from the screen, you're absolutely exhausted, you're kind of just like, and you know that you're tired, you know that you're getting reactive, or that people are kind of pushing you in a direction you don't want to go. Let's try this one out. Now you need to take the two hands, one, two, and drag the fingers of one hand down the fingers and palm of the other. Now that's too fast. What you want to do, and do this with me, nobody can see, well, unless you're on the bus, but nobody can see. So just pull your fingers down with so slow and with such attention that you can feel the ridges of each finger as you go. And just keep going, keep paying attention. 10, 15 seconds, and then decide what to do next. The sensory hacks are brilliant because they disrupt your typical neural pathways. So you remember I said about those automatic decisions, you can kind of put a hard stop to them through intention, but sometimes just blocking them or distracting them can help them to move forward. Definitely it works for 2-year-old kids, so why wouldn't it work with a neural pathway? I'm sure lots of people would tell me why not. So have a look at the detail down below. Do consider signing up because we've got some very good deals on at the moment. I have started an exponential mindset course. So this is a mini course that's got 3 items in. It goes into this a little bit more detail, helps you understand what's next. And it has got a bit of a juicy bonus at the end. So bring that in. That's going to be below. In the meantime, do take care. Keep looking out the bloody window. It's dark here now, but keep looking out the window. Keep reconnecting and appreciating the fact that you're part of something that is way bigger than that screen that's in front of you, no matter how big the screen is. Even Elon Musk's screen can't be as big as all of that. But remember, you're part of something that's much bigger. And it's really a joyful, abundant place, and you'll go far. Hopefully see you soon.